So, good morning everyone.
Boker Tov.
We find the beginning of yesterday's Parsha describes the observance of Shabbos in connection with building the sanctuary. So it says, these are the matters, Eil Dvarim, Asher Tziva Hashem La'asot Otam, which Hashem commanded you to do. For 6 days, work should be done. The 7th day is the Shabbos. So, the straightforward interpretation, work should be done, means in reference to what was mentioned before, what's mentioned afterwards, the building of the sanctuary. Because the passages before dealt with the commandment to build the sanctuary, and the passages that follow deal with the actual construction work of the sanctuary, which they fulfilled. So, right in the middle it says, 6 days you should do this work, but not on the Shabbos. Now, we know that the Shabbos is referred to as Moed Hashem. It's a meeting time with Hashem. That's what it's referred to in other places in the Chumash. And Shabbos is mentioned very frequently in the Chumash. So it's a meeting time. The sanctuary is called an Ohel Moed, a tent of meeting, a meeting place. So a meeting place and meeting time with Hashem. So we see from here, the meeting time is more important than the meeting place. Because although you're involved with working to produce a meeting place with Hashem, but at the meeting time on the Shabbos, you should not do any work. Only do 6 days. So in order to understand this more deeply, let's go to the beginning of the concept of closeness of Hashem to this world. The first time Shabbos is mentioned is at the end of the first chapter of the Chumash, where the Shabbos is referred to as Kibo Shabbat Mikol Lachto. On that day, Hashem rested from the Malacha which He had done. So to understand the essence of the Shabbos, it's referred to as Shabbat Shavit Tamei Melacha, resting from work, and here the word used for work is Melacha. Now, Melacha comes from the root to send, La'ach. Now, but we know in Hebrew, all nouns go back to 3-letter verbal roots, and the ultimate root is actually 2 letters. The 3rd letter is a variant. The 3-letter roots are all verbs, activities, and all nouns are really based upon the verbal roots. A verb refers to an activity. A noun refers to something as an object, generally speaking. So, in order to understand the first chapter of the Chumash, which refers to the creation of the world, So it's good to turn to a phrase which we say every morning. We say, Hashem machadish b'tuva b'chol yom tamid ma'aseh bereshis. In His goodness, Hashem renews every day the work of creation. In other words, the first chapter is not supposed to speak about original creation. It refers to constant creation. Hashem renews creation constantly. And the verse which is brought for this is that the oise oirem gedolim kilo elam chazdo Hashem, He makes great lights because His loving kindness is forever. And then we say Yotzer HaMoros, God not only created light-giving bodies, He creates them all the time. Yotzer Morot. One could explain this in modern scientific terms, because there's a theory that creation is to be understood as constant creation. Constant creationism is one of the scientific interpretations of all energy. It's constant creation. But obviously here we're talking about something of a deeper nature. In other words, Hashem, we say, is the master of the universe at every moment. And He can change it as He wishes. Both the world of nature as well as the world of history. It's all in His hands, every moment. Because without Hashem, there'd be no energy in the world, of any sort. He is the source of all the energies. Human energy and energy of all other beings on this universe. And that's the connection in the bracha we say in the morning, because it's rather surprising. We say Hashem, okay, light, we know, is one of the basic energies. And in fact, Sir James Jeans, a great astronomer, a great physicist, in his work called The Mysterious Universe, he says, when it says in the Bible, the first creation, let there be light, this is a reference to basic energy which expresses itself through heat and light, which is what's called today the electromagnetic force of the universe. So the energies of all existence, because the material world is based upon existence, so I see. Because I have to make the chair very short. So I'll just elaborate on this. So how do we end this bracha? Can any of you tell me? I quoted from the daily davening. Can you tell me how it goes on? It goes on by saying, O Chadash al Tzion Ta'ir. Since Hashem renews creation constantly, loving kindness is constant, it's forever. It goes on and on and on. It's loving kindness expressed through constant recreation. Then we say, please cause a new light to shine over Zion. Then we say, what's one to do with the other? You might say. Here we're talking about creation of the world, the universe. The universe is made up of light-giving bodies, or heat-giving bodies, or energy-giving bodies. It's the whole universe. And then we say, loving kindness is constant. Okay, osek orim gedolim, bring a new light to Zion, Today, what are you all searching for? We need a new light for all the dark situations of Zion. Yes, whichever way you want to put it, the anti-Zionism, the anti-Zion of all types, and the threats that go on in the world. The world is, from a point of view of morality, is really becoming chaotic, to put it mildly. And in the chaos, what happens? The powers of evil and destruction seem to be gathering strength against those who are in favor of life and construction. It's both wherever it is. And mankind seems to be going through a mental breakdown, a suicidal approach to existence. So we say, please Hashem, bring a new light to Zion. But it ends with saying, you Hashem are the one who creates light. So what do we learn from here? That Hashem's renewal is a constant possibility. If we believe in Hashem, everything becomes renewed. And this is a very deep concept, because what's the whole concept of idolatry was? That it's too difficult for human beings, or it was, and to some extent also is today, to connect with the external senses which deal with the concrete world and recognize that the essence of life is completely spiritual. The source of everything is spiritual. Spiritual, which is beyond the five senses, beyond the concrete world. It's even difficult, someone who goes deeply into science, to be able to, as it were, understand existence at two levels. One is let's call it the super scientific level of understanding the whole of the world as being made up of four forces which produce the energies, and regard that as the ultimate reality, and recognize that everything else is just an appearance, or things appear to be, at a scientific level. It's not so simple. It's even more difficult in the spiritual level. But if a person's got a strong conscience, and he works on his conscience, is something which is spiritual. And deep inside the human being, there's a spiritual personality, which is carried by the body. But for people to realize that, and to live accordingly, it's difficult. And that's why, even when the original religion of mankind seems to have been belief in one spiritual God, but it deteriorates. Okay, we want to connect up with the Spirit, how can we do it? We have to have something concrete. So instead of recognizing God is above all the senses, they say, well, we've got to somehow put him into the concrete world to be able to live with it. And therefore they said, okay, there is such a thing, but it's above our level, we don't really connect with it. Therefore we need to have an intermediary. This was the sin of the idolaters originally. They said, we know, okay, there's the God of the gods, but we have to worship the gods that we can see, like the sun and the moon and the stars and the trees, or even the whole productivity of nature. And then they made images. Or even amongst the people of Israel, it was difficult for them to conceive this because they were still, the Erev Ra was still big under the influence of Egyptian idolatry. They said, Moshe, the man isn't there anymore, we have to have a substitute. Moshe was concrete, a body, so we could connect with Hashem through Moshe. But we need a replacement. Either we need another man who'll take it over, and Aaron refused to say, no, it's called simple understanding. Went to Aaron and said, look, you become the messenger. No, he's not. He believed in Moshe Rabbeinu. Said, but meanwhile, you want to make some means whereby you can come nearer to Hashem. They made go to all the different interpretations of the golden calf. But we see in our own time as well, even Jewish circles would say, well, either they say God, I can't see God in the heavens, therefore he doesn't exist. No, so therefore, what do they worship? They worship the state, or they worship dictators, almost like they worship. Like in the communist schools where this statement was made by the first one, went out to space, I never saw God in the heavens. Didn't see him there. Similarly also, when there were children being taught to the theories of atheism, so when the children said, in most of the schools, that's how it went, they had pictures up of Lenin and Stalin, and they asked the children, who gives bread? They said, Bog is God. God gives bread. So the teacher says, well, can you see God? You can't see God. Who can you see? You can see Lenin and Stalin. And Stalin you can even see. Go to the Kremlin and see him in person. He gives bread. They got all the children to say, he gives bread. Until the bright Jewish child, he refused to say it. So the teacher said, why don't you say it? Well, he said, well, why don't you also say that Stalin gives bread? So he said, well, you say something you can't see doesn't exist. I want to ask everyone here, can anyone see the intelligence of the teacher? You can't see it, can you? Yeah, that's all. So we Jews are iconoclasts. Our problem is the iconoclasts. You pull down all the gods, and that's Aristotle put it in philosophical terms. It's nature. Nature always existed. What's it mean, nature? Nature always existed. And therefore he said God existed always and nature exists always. It's also a philosophical transfer to the fixing of nature, of the universe, being a fixed power. Not a fixed power. It's all an expression of the divinity of Hashem. I'm very sorry today, it's something very urgent. I can't manage at this time, only later. So you must excuse me, but you can